Welcome to the Giants Huddle podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the New York Football Giants. John Schmeelk, our weekly spot with Shaun O'Hara. It's usually Tuesdays, but it's Wednesday because the Giants played on Monday. Welcome to the NFL schedule when you don't play on Sunday afternoons.
Copy that.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Just check your phone to figure out what day it is and just look at the calendar. You've got everything lit up right there. But last week we talked about, I made the NBA Jam.
Yes.
Like reference, like you make 2 shots in a row. He's heating up. The Giants are on fire right now. The rim is literally smoking, and the net is gone. It's disintegrated.
And the guy that can do no wrong, what does it feel like living in Tommy DeVito's world, Shaun O'Hara?
Oh, my goodness.
As a Jersey guy.
Let me just tell you, so driving to the stadium, I'm listening to your pregame with Jonathan Casillas, like I always do. Listen to my boys. Take care of it. You go to commercial, and guess who comes on as the radio commercial is Tommy DeVito Sr. Hey, this is Tom DeVito Sr., Tommy DeVito's dad.
He was in here recording that. I recorded it with him.
Yeah, he's like, I've been a plumber for 25 years. I only install Peerless boilers. It was like a whole read for Peerless boilers and how they're the best Peerless boilers. And he can do it faster than anybody and better than anybody. And, of course, the call off, his sign-off was, and if you don't call Tommy DeVito Plumbing to install your Peerless boiler, forget about it. Anybody else, it's a fugazi. I mean, it was, I'm driving the game and I'm like, this is the complete takeover. And then, of course, the game happened and it was even better.
And the funny thing is that I think from just watching him in the stands and, you know, the stogie at the tailgate before the game, he was a very low-key, pretty soft-spoken guy. Like, it's not, and I think Tommy's the same way, by the way. I think people see these guys as like these loud, obnoxious Jersey Italians, which is kind of what the whole, you know, bad Jersey Shore caricature is. That's not what these guys are.
Yeah.
Like
this is not Snooki.
No, they're actually a very low-key group, believe it or not. But you know what? If I'm sitting there, I'm not a all out there guy. But if my kid's out there playing for the Giants on a Sunday, guess what? I'm going nuts too.
Oh yeah.
So
absolutely.
I mean, it's such a quintessential New York story.
It's a great point you're making because they are. Like the dad, like I mentioned, he's a plumber. He's a blue-collar guy. This guy's been working his butt off, and Tommy has seen that. His mom is wearing a Tommy Cutlets sweatshirt, customized, like any mom and dad would do. They're just soaking it all up and enjoying celebrating their son. There's some kissing involved too, with the agent, Sean Stiletto.
I'm surprised he didn't try to recruit you coming out. To be your agent.
Yeah, I think we're like the same age, so I think he was just kind of getting into it.
Fair point.
But like the whole thing is, it's just really cool, and I think for Giants fans, like they've embraced the Tommy DeVito and his family as he's one of us. Like this is one of our own. Jersey boy, New York Giants, like playing right here. Like it's a great story. Like Hollywood couldn't make a script better than this. And the fact that he's playing great, he's been phenomenal. He's gotten better every single week. The fact that he's playing is the best part of the story, is how well he's playing, how he's willing back-to-back games, like takes the team down for a game winner.
Yeah, and I thought the difference in this game, and he made the big throw to Wandell on that out where Wandell, and we'll talk about him too, because I thought he had his best game as a Giant, where he basically turns around that slot corner off the line of scrimmage, did a great job on it. But what I thought what Tommy DeVito did so well in this game, the design running was great, but the Packers were getting pressure on him, right? Especially early in the game, they ran a lot of stunts and twists, and they were getting guys in the backfield. But as you well know, Shaun, when you run those stunts and twists, you leave gaps.
Yeah.
These guys are running around, and I thought DeVito did a great job of quickly identifying the pressure, seeing those gaps, and getting through them before the pressure could get home. And I think while teams the past couple weeks had almost left a second-level defender, not as a true spy, but close to the line of scrimmage, and then they would clean up after DeVito broke out of the pocket. Well, the Packers were playing their typical deeper zone, and he would have 7, 8, 9 yards of daylight after he got through that initial pressure.
Yeah, he did a great job because you can't always step up in the pocket sometimes, depending on if it's coming from a twist. You kind of have to escape, out of the side. And I think he did a great job recognizing that right away. And then he got the ball out too.
Yeah, he did.
Coming into this game against the Green Bay Packers, he'd been sacked an unbelievable amount of
I
times.
think it was 20 times in 3 games.
Yeah,
it
was absurd. Like a lot of it was because he was holding on to the ball, and it was almost like he was stuck on his read. There was none of that, not one sack in the game. So kudos to the O-lineman.
Yeah, they did a really nice job. And, we talked about the matchup with Tyree Phillips and Rashawn Gary heading into this game. Because Rashawn Gary, no joke, top 10 pass rusher in the NFL. He's excellent player. One quarterback hit, from that Phillips gave up the whole game, and that was on a twist, not even on a one-on-one play.
Yeah.
And there was some pressure given up inside by the offensive line, but on the edges, and did Phillips get some help sometimes with chips and stuff? That's fine.
Yeah.
Don't care.
Yeah.
Rashawn Gary was quiet.
He's been a game wrecker, and you really didn't hear his name called at all, and that was huge. I thought Andrew Thomas played really well on the other side against Preston Smith.
No
who's
surprise.
A savvy veteran. I think up front they did a great job keeping Tommy fresh, keeping him clean, and then in the run game, while it maybe wasn't a great start to the game offensively and rushing the football, the big runs came in the fourth quarter. That's when you want to kind of pop that big one. And, kudos to Kafka and to Dable for staying patient with the run and keep consistently going back to it.
And it's funny, that almost goes back, and this felt like, and I'll circle back to DeVito and Robinson, but this felt like a 2022 Giants win, right?
Yeah.
You run with the quarterback, you win situationally, you're better in the red zone than the other team, you win the turnover battle, you make big plays when you need to. At the end of the game, your guy makes the kick. You make a couple big plays. And they tried to close the game with the run again, right? And this is what they did constantly at the end of games last year. Now, unfortunately, Saquon fumbles the football. If he doesn't do it, they probably run the ball 4 or 5 more times on that drive. Game over. And the Packers might, if they get the ball back, it's only with a couple minutes to go, and it's going to be a real tough spot for them. And they might be down 2 scores. But this felt like the formula from 2022 finally showing up in 2023.
Yeah, when you watch the game, like at no point did you think that the Giants weren't going to win the game. Like it felt like they were in control the entire time. And it's pretty wild. Like this is the NFL, right? So 8 days before that game, the Packers beat the defending Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. And yet the Giants were basically manhandling them.
And 10 days before that, by the way, they won in Detroit against the Lions team that had 2 losses.
Yeah. So it's remarkable, and yet during that game, I'm like, you know what? The offense is playing really well. The defense is playing lights out. I mean, the sticky coverage was everywhere. Jordan Love, I mean, he looked pedestrian, and you never felt like this game was going to get away from us. To your point, totally different this year compared to last year. Last year, we won all the close games, and then even when Saquon fumbled the ball, it was like, oh my gosh! And then when they went down and scored. You know what? There was a lot of belief. I feel like the team believes in the offense. The defense trusts the offense now, and the offense that trust is now kind of all of a sudden starting to create a little energy and a little more physical nature from the defense because they're like, hey, the offense is scoring points. All right, let's go, guys. We got a shot to win it. So complementary football is what they call it. I don't like using that cliche, but both teams are feeding off of each other, and that's when you know you have a good team.
Is that because you got tired of Tom Coughlin saying it for 10 years in your career?
I hear it, and it's just like, what does that even mean? Complimentary? That sounds so gentlemanly, like, oh, compliment. We want to compliment each other. No, this is football. We want to smash somebody in the face. Compliments. Keep your compliments to yourself.
You're ready for a change. Payday comes early with Citizens, so go to that retreat. New You moves to the country. Now you're raising goats and launching a lifestyle brand. Are you ready for all that life brings?
Back to DeVito, you mentioned it. I think they did a good job of getting the ball out quickly. So many of his passes were within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Only, I think, 5 passes. I don't have it in front of me. I looked it up yesterday, and I was half asleep. I believe it was 5 passes that traveled more than 10 yards in the air, and he completed 4 of them. Yeah. So when they did ask him to throw the ball down the field, and I think there was only 1 pass of 20 more yards, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. But when they did throw it down the field, he was successful. Wanda Robinson was a big part of that, and they like running that slot player on all those deep over routes across the field, right? That's kind of what that Brian Dable offensive system is. And it's not just the Giants. A lot of teams do that. You want to get your fast guys in space and create room. And I think what happened on that last play, I think they were anticipating the same type of deal, right? And Wando comes off the line. You can tell he takes that little step inside.
Right.
The corner turns, and all of a sudden he breaks to the little flag route, and the corner got turned around. And he had like 8 yards of separation, and DeVito hit him right on the money and allowed him to turn it upfield and gain extra yards after the catch.
Yeah, that was great play design. And we heard Brian Dable talk after the game. He said, what did you say to Tommy DeVito right before the last drive? And he said, we got a bunch of plays you like, go out there and let it rip. And that's one of those things where, what does our guy throw well? They've seen Tommy in practice. They know, like he throws that post route or that corner route really well. It's all timing because you've got to throw that ball sometimes before the receiver has made that break because you're leading him. That same kind of throw, the very first third down of the game, Tommy missed it up the sideline, I think it was. And the receiver was wide open. He just kind of missed that throw.
I think, if I remember right.
That was to the left. Mm-hmm. So now every quarterback will tell you when you're throwing the ball to the right as to the left, it's different because when you're to the right, you're more open. Like you don't have the hip. When you're throwing to the left, your hip, you almost kind of you can get a little more juice on it because your hip.
Your body is naturally closed.
Yeah, you're kind of like torquing the hip to get your shoulders through, so you can kind of sail the ball on that. But I think that's also a big part of this is, look, Tommy did not take any reps in training camp or early on when Tyrod was the backup. He was taking no reps with the first or second team offense. So even for Kafka and for Dable to know what does he do well, it's taken them some time too. And they can look at it and say, all right, even over the bye week, hey, what are the plays that he's doing really well in practice?
And Kafka told me that's what they did.
Let's change all that.
And that's what he did. He said, and Tommy, we interviewed him on the pregame show. You heard the interview. And Tommy said, look, in the bye week, we sat down, or every week when we do game plans, if there's a play in the game plan where I say, I'm not sure about that one, they just dump it. They don't even put it in there. Yeah. They take it right out. So he said he was very complimentary about how responsive Dable and Kafka has been to his input. And he's like, and he even said on the interview, goes, and look, to their credit, they don't have to do that. Like, I've been around coaches who are like, no, this play works. It's in. Yeah. You figure it out. Yeah. That's not what they're doing with them. They're trying to customize the game plan to a strength.
Yeah, that's the Gunny Highway from Heartbreak Ridge. You know, like that kind of. It's funny. It's kind of like being a parent, right? It's like you're trying to figure out, what does your kid eat? Like, what will you eat for breakfast or for lunch? Like, if I'm going to make this macaroni and cheese, you damn well better eat it. If I go through the whole process of making this and then you say I don't like that, like, what are we at? Like, you're going to sit there and force them to eat the mac and cheese?
Sean, my kid won't eat rice. It's rice.
That's a great play.
Yes,
how do you not like this play? Can I show you the highlights? You scored unbelievable amounts of touchdowns on this play. You don't like the play?
I know.
What's wrong with you? Okay, fine. You want chicken nuggets? Fine.
Yeah, that's exactly
chicken
what
nuggets.
It is.
Here we go.
That's exactly
fine.
what it is.
You want peanut butter jelly? Okay. Peanut butter jelly for breakfast. Whatever.
You're not wrong. That's why it's so funny. And I want to give Rondell Robinson credit too, because he bailed out Tommy DeVito on that flea flicker pay.
Yeah.
He had
great adjustment.
No business throwing that pass.
Yeah.
Linebacker underneath, safety over the top. If he leads him properly, it's just like the Pinnock play. Yeah. That's an interception going the other way. And he threw it. I'll give him the credit for it. I don't know what was going through his head. It looked like he back-shouldered it on purpose. The linebacker runs past him, and he ends up making the play. But really, one of the few times this year we've seen a wide receiver on this team make a play that was kind of above the X's and O's, and that was a huge play in the end.
Yeah, we might be giving him a little too much credit if we say he back shoulder throwed, because I don't know that anybody's ever said that on a flea flicker. Like, hey, we're gonna run this play.
We're gonna back shoulder.
No, like you run a back shoulder throw in the red zone on a fade route, and the defender's over the top. Or hey, I'm gonna it's a run play, but I'm gonna throw the back shoulder quick pass. But
it's called giving the benefit of the doubt, Sean.
You know what? That's a quarterback also saying, look, I'm going to give my receiver a shot to make a play.
And he was feeling it at that point.
Yeah,
he was feeling it a little bit.
As a quarterback, throw it up there, let the guy make a play, and Wandale certainly did a great job adjusting on that ball in the air.
And then defensively, Sean, you brought it up before. And by the way, Giants Huddle podcast brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. From game day to every day, Citizens is made ready for Giant fans with insights, guidance, and solutions. Learn more at citizensbank.com. Defensively, we talked heading into the game about how you can't really judge the Packers by their overall stats during the year because they were, frankly, not a very good team the first 4, 5, 6 games.
Turned the ball over a lot. And Jordan Love was struggling.
The defense was struggling. It just wasn't working for them. But the last 4 games, they looked great. Well, the Giants' defense made this Packer offense look like the team that was playing the first 4 or 5 games of this year. Jordan Love was all over the place. His passes were scattershot, and they just could not do much in the passing game. And I give Wynn credit. Man defense, I looked it up by the PFF metrics, under 20% cover 1 in this game.
Wow.
They played a lot of zone.
They're averaging like 46% or something.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That,
yeah, I think they were
second most in the
they're
league.
around 40. And that's why I think the Packers ran so much of that quick underneath stuff.
Right.
I feel like the Packers have been running that slant flat combination on the outside since, basically McCarthy was there.
Yeah.
And they just kept trying to get to Jaden Reed in space and a bunch of short stuff because the Giants broke some tendencies and played a lot more zone.
Yeah, they did. And you know what? Like, they got pressure too. Like, and it's not always a bunch of sacks, and, it doesn't have to be 7 sacks. It could just be getting to the quarterback, hitting him. Ojulari got in on one. Dexter and Kayvon, there was a bunch of guys that kind of shared all that. But I think some of those sacks, it was because of the coverage. The coverage was so good. Now, you go back to the start of the game, Jordan Love missed a bunch of throws early on.
Short, easy ones.
I don't know if it was the cold or the wind or whatever.
Did you notice that CBS, or Fox rather, kept showing the floor on the sideline after the missed passes?
Oh, no.
And he's just like...
Yeah. Yeah, I come up with a great play.
Yeah.
I did great design.
I gave you your chicken nuggets and you still can't make the throw.
Yeah, and what happened? You dropped the plate. You dropped the fork. Now you got to eat with your hands. The frustration definitely setting in. And for him, look, I'm sure you guys talked about this ad nauseum last week. Like, LaFleur had never lost a game in December.
16-0.
Packer coach. So they've been phenomenal from that standpoint. I thought Jordan struggled early on in the game, and then I think that kind of got into his head. Like, all right, now he's thinking about the throws, but. Why? So you mentioned Wink Martindale. Like, Wink's going to blitz. He's going to bring pressure, but he was definitely more reserved. And I think
they actually they still had about a 40% blitz rate, but again, it wasn't that. I don't think
it wasn't full tilt.
I don't think I saw cover 0 once the whole game.
Yeah.
Just thinking about when I just rewatched the tape this morning.
I think maybe that that throw where Romeo Doubs caught it looked like a touchdown against Dory Jackson.
Yeah, Dory Jackson did a great job pushing him out of bounds.
Yeah, that was good. That might have been 0. I can't remember, but the corners were playing phenomenal, and Dory had a great game. Deonte Banks played his butt off. I mean, he led the Giants in tackles. I think he had 12 tackles in addition to that touchdown-saving pass that he knocked down.
I would have loved for the guy not to get 3 yards of separation first,
right?
But yes, I will take the pass deflection.
I'll take I'll take recovery speed any day on that. Now, next level, Deontay, go ahead and pick it off. Like if you have time to reach out there and do that, like get the other hand in there and make that an interception.
And he had struggled getting his head around at points this year, so I think it was really good that he did turn around.
Definitely
and locate
progress.
the ball.
I think defensively, the one thing that just kind of jumped out at me was there was a lot of missed tackles, and that's kind of been something that has really plagued this defense all season long. Tackling in space, look, A.J. Dillon is a freaking load. Like, he looked like Jerome Bettis out there sometimes, like bouncing off guys. Xavier McKinney came over on the sideline, and he about got sent in the next week. And A.J. Dillon's, he's a tough guy to tackle. But there was too many big plays that happened, not because a guy wasn't there, it wasn't in position, it was because he didn't make the tackle.
Yeah, I agree with that. Really quickly, Sean, before you say goodbye here, anything else you want to talk about in the Packer game before we move on next week to the Saints?
You know what? I just I want to say thank you to the Giants fans for coming out. It was Monday Night Football. There's a lot going on. The Knicks were playing. There was another Monday Night Football game going on with the Titans and the Dolphins, and the Giants fans were phenomenal.
It was a nice battle between the Giants and Packer fans in that building. It was fun.
Were well traveled.
It was fun.
Packers fans are the nicest fans in the world. So like that's. It's always nice to have a house guest that like cleans up after themselves.
I still remember leaving the title game in 2007. They're like, "All right, guys, good luck in the Super Bowl. This was fun." I'm like, "What's wrong with you?
Who does that?" Like if you're in Philly, you're getting pelted with snowballs and
guys,
beer balls.
I'm not joking. A fan said actually, "Oh, guys, that was a great game. Good luck in the Super Bowl." I'm like, "Okay."
It's basically Canada.
Sorry about the weather. But yeah, that was a great atmosphere. It was really cool. Obviously a great ending and a great win. But look, there's only 2 more home games. And that atmosphere is what it should be on a Monday night game at MetLife. It was really cool. So that was really fun. And again, I mentioned briefly, shout out to the Giants offensive lineman. They got game balls after the game.
No sacks.
We've been talking a lot about Tommy DeVito. He's everywhere right now. He's done every interview I think you could possibly do in a 24-hour window.
I've seen his agent on TV more than Tommy, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Sean Stellato's been, like they're both trending right now, some for good, some for bad. But the offensive line, 200 yards rushing, did a great job against Rashawn Gary, as we mentioned. He's what Bobby Johnson would call a werewolf, and no sacks. So that's big. That's huge progress, and it just shows when the offensive line is playing well. Like the offense is functional and things look different.
And the run game not traditionally too. And I'm happy you brought that up, because I want to tip my cap to Mike Kafka and Brian Dable for putting together a really good game.
And Bobby Johnson. We got to give Bobby Johnson. He's
Bobby
taking a lot
Johnson
of heat.
too. Giants had 144 rushing yards through 3 quarters, Sean. At that point, Saquon Barkley had 13 carries for 25 yards, which means non-running backs, I think Brady might have had 10 yards in there too, but non-running backs had over 100 yards rushing through 3 quarters. Yeah. I mean, that's an amazing job, whether, again, some of it's Tommy scrambling, but you had the design runs, and I think what we saw at halftime, and Casillas and I talked about this at the on the halftime show on the radio, you saw every time, and look, this is what all these teams are doing. When Saquon Barkley gets the ball, you see 11 guys on defense flying
Yeah,
out.
they're swarming.
They are not going to let him do anything. So what do? All right, well, we're going to run some read option. If they're going to run a lot of Saquon Barkley, let's do some misdirection.
Yep.
We're going to run a flea flicker.
Wide open.
We're going to bring it back. We're going to do a wildcat. And guess what? Saquon's going to almost fumble it, but hand it off to Wan'Dale Robinson, and he's going to run for 30 yards. So I thought the coaching staff at the half, and Brian Daly gave Bobby Johnson and Mike Kaff credit for this in his post-game presser, making an adjustment to use Saquon as a decoy to open up other things in the run game, which I thought was really well done.
It's a great point, and they definitely have taken heat this year, so you have to give them credit when they do stuff. The other thing I'll add on there is, how about Mark Lewinsky? Lining up, 64 is eligible, and that wasn't just on one time, one play. It wasn't one short yards, and it wasn't 64 is eligible when he's lining up a tight end.
Going in motion.
He was a fullback. He was in motion, and on that touchdown run for Saquon, he knocked over. It was like bowling pins.
It was like
he
three
picked
guys.
up the 4-7 split. He knocked over. It was like a 5-car pileup, and Saquon just kind of waltzed around and did his little finger roll into the end zone. But Mark Lewinsky, great job blocking on the move. I see a big fella.
You love turf. You're good at it. So you start a turf biz. Business grows, your savings grow. Become the most celebrated name in turf. Are you ready for all that life brings?
Oh, yeah, he had some nice moments. Giants fans love a winner. It's why they love Citizens, named a 2022 Best Bank in the U.S. by The Banker as the official bank of the Giants and sponsor of the Huddle. Citizens is made ready for fans of Big Blue. Learn more at citizensbank.com. All right, Saints game, real quick, Sean, before we say goodbye. First of all, what is it like to play in the Superdome?
I hated it. I feel like we got ran out of the building every single time we went down there.
You
we
guys
got
never
slaughtered.
went down there, right?
Oh, it was brutal. And of course, that was Drew Brees and Sean Payton. And that's funny. I just saw Eli in the cafeteria, and we were talking about we had some long flights home from that, because you'd look up in the second quarter, it's like, how are we down 17-0 already?
Were you still playing the game where it was 53-48, or was that after you retired?
No, that was after I retired. But yeah, that was back and forth. That was a shootout. But
that was a crazy one.
When we played down there, number one, the lighting down there is totally different. So I feel like receivers have a hard time, and punt returners, you go out there, you got to really, the lights are just different.
Have they changed that though?
I don't know.
When they renovated it, they might have. I'm not sure.
Because I remember the lighting was kind of different, but it's so loud down there, and the fans, when they're into it, man, that place is electric. It's one of the hardest places to play on the road. So I feel like we never really played very well. We were always behind early, and then it's third and longs, and you're in the silent count. So starting fast is huge down there. But New Orleans is a cool place to be. It's a cool place to play, and you don't get to go out on Bourbon Street and walk around and check out the French Quarters while you're playing.
I was going to ask you what your go-to place was in the French Quarter.
Well, I've gone there a couple of different times. One for a bachelor party, and we got a chance to hang out there. But my first year working as the NFL Network analyst, the Super Bowl was in New Orleans, and I got to go down there. I tell you what, I tried shrimp and grits at every damn restaurant. I ate beignets every night. It was phenomenal. The beignets are good.
What did you put on, 20 pounds?
I probably put on a lot. That was back when I was eating carbs. But there was a couple different really nice places. There's one place that everybody warns you about. It's called the Absinthe House. It's where they serve absinthe, which some people call mind erasers, or it's
dangerous.
So
yes,
so be careful out there.
Kids, be careful out
there.
The
hurricanes are very strong down there, and I'm not talking about the weather. I'm talking about the drink. So be careful out there. There's
I've had a couple of those.
I think there's a hand grenade one they call too. There's all kinds of weird name drinks. Stay away from those. Stick to just the beer.
Awesome. The game itself, I think that was well worth the time.
Oh, yeah, the game.
Game. You're right. The fans have been really loud.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's not great for Derek Carr, since a lot of that has been them trying to boo him off of the field.
Yeah, they're booing him when Taysom Hill comes on the field. They're cheering Taysom, and they're saying, "We want Jameis."
I've never seen anything like it before.
Yeah, Derek Carr.
And usually the Saints fans are not usually they're more of the homer crowd, where you're not going to kind of go after your own group. But boy, they are not happy with how the offense is playing down there right now.
Although the Carolina win definitely helped. That was a get-right game. Jimmy Graham has resurfaced, and a lot of people didn't even know he was still in the league, but he's got a touchdown in back-to-back games, I believe. Chris Olave's been kind of their big target.
He's very good.
He's phenomenal.
And I think Kamara still looks really good, too, by the way.
He looks fresh.
Yeah.
He looks good. They have Jamal Williams is kind of their 1-2 punch. Their offensive line's pretty stout, so they are very physical up front. But defensively, that's really kind of where the Saints hang their hat on. Their defense has been phenomenal. Demario Davis is one of the best linebackers in the league, and nobody really talks about him much. He does it all. He never comes off the field. Watch for him on third down. like he's number 56. He's a linebacker, but he is rushing the passer now on third down. They've got him doing a lot of different stunts. So,
5.5 sacks, second most sacks on the team.
Yeah, and like Cam Jordan is always, he's a battle. So if it's Tyree Phillips or if it's Evan Neal at right tackle, that could be a big challenge.
Yeah, and right now they're holding opposing quarterbacks, I believe, to the lowest quarterback rating in the entire NFL.
79.
Like, it's man.
Yeah.
Like, they don't mess around down there. This isn't soft zone where there's going to be all these easy throws. Oh, we'll just throw a little 5-yard speed out. We'll get 5 yards on first down. Easy go. That is not what this is going to be. Like, Tommy DeVito is going to have to put the ball into some tight windows, and Giant wide receivers have to win against some pretty good cover cornerbacks. Yeah,
they've got some good corners. They're very sticky. Defensively, what I always look at, too, is the front. They run a lot of what we call 5-down defense, which is centers covered, both guards covered, both tackles covered. So basically 5 guys. That is a run-stopping defense. They get into it on third down sometimes, too, and it's really just trying to create one-on-one matchups. And what happens is one-on-one matchups with the offensive line, which puts a linebacker one-on-one with a running back. So your running backs better be able to pass protect because they are going to be challenged against Demario Davis and the rest of the Saints defense.
And that goes back to Demario Davis, absolutely. Final question, Shaun. If I would have told you when we sat down here after that game against the Jets that we'd be sitting here on December 13th, that the Giants would be 1 game out of the 7th NFC wildcard spot, would you have hit me with the mic? Would you have pushed me off of the chair? Would you have thrown Pearson at me maybe? I think there's a lot of different options.
Yeah, I would have told you you're still drunk. Go home. I think it's wild how the NFL is right now. And, it's just it's like the Daytona 500. Everybody's just kind of stuck in a pack right now. They're waiting for somebody to kind of break free.
You have those first 4 teams in the conference, and everything else is just a disaster.
What's wild is, the Jets game, we won that game. We had it won, and then we just gift wrapped it and handed it to them in a monsoon. That game alone, now all of a sudden, we're right in the mix. And then the Buffalo Bills game up there in Buffalo should have won that game. Those 2 games right there, this is a completely different vibe. We would be sitting in the driver's seat for the playoffs.
I know, and it's amazing. Then again, Giants did catch a break against New England. They missed a 38-yard field goal to tie that game late. So
we were due.
This is why, 100%. Yeah. But this is why close games go either way, right? You play a lot of close games. Some are going to go your way. Some are not going to go your way, and that's kind of the NFL. I mean, that's just the way it goes. Shaun, this was fun, my man.
Yeah, good stuff.
And you can check out Shaun O'Hara. He'll have more New Orleans recommendations for you on his Twitter feed, Instagram, all that good stuff.
Check out my Zagat reviews.
Check that out during the week. Absolutely. For Shaun O'Hara, I'm John Schmeelk. Thanks for joining us on the Giants Huddle podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. We'll see you next time, everybody.